Imagine, if you will, a color that has been mixed so completely, so thoroughly with every other shade on the palette
Yeah.
that it actually becomes this blinding white.
Right, yeah,
Oh,
like
yeah.
it just overloads the spectrum.
Exactly. Or try to picture a single musical note played so fully with such absolute, like, earth-shaking resonance that it wraps around itself and actually sounds like pure silence.
Which is such a wild concept to try and wrap your head around.
It totally is.
Yeah.
Because what looks like an absence to us, what looks like, empty space, is actually a state of total, overwhelming saturation.
Right, the paradox that true emptiness is actually an overflow.
Yeah, and that paradox is the exact key to unlocking this wildly esoteric document we are decoding today. Welcome to today's deep dive, where we are jumping into a highly philosophical, deeply mythic narrative titled The Narrow Saturnial Path.
It's a fascinating text. Really dense, but incredible.
Oh, absolutely dense. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how this single framework manages to blend ancient cosmology, human psychology, and, surprisingly enough, modern biology.
Yeah, the biology part is definitely a twist.
It really is. And it uses all of that to
Mhm.
create this manual for breaking out of cosmic cages from the inside.
It is a remarkable synthesis to explore, really, because, we are so used to defining our world and ourselves by boundaries.
Oh, sure.
Like, we think a cup is useful because it is empty inside, right? We define our own identities by where we end and someone else begins.
Right. I am me because I'm not you.
Exactly. But the cosmology laid out here flips that entirely on its head. It suggests that our whole obsession with boundaries is actually the root of a massive systemic illusion.
So let's start right at the beginning of that illusion with what the text describes as the primordial feminine nature,
Hmm.
or the primordial mother.
Right.
Because in most creation myths you and I have read, there's always this dark void, right?
Right.
And then a creator steps in to carve shapes out of it.
Yeah, the classic light from the darkness narrative.
Exactly. But this narrative argues that the primordial mother was formless, not because she was empty space waiting to be filled, but because she was overfull.
Which is such a brilliant reframing of the void. She held every possible form so densely, so totally, that nothing could actually be singled out.
So it's not nothingness, it's everythingness.
Right. Think of it, like being inside a diamond.
I like that.
Yeah, if you are standing inside a single, perfectly clear, completely bounded shape, that sheer density of structure just looks like nothing at all to the naked eye.
It's just clear. You look right through it.
Precisely. And this introduces the central conflict of the entire mythos,
Yeah.
because this overfullness completely terrified the entities described as the architects of the bounded world.
Well, yeah, because they couldn't control something that had no leverage point.
Exactly.
I mean, it makes perfect sense psychologically. You cannot manipulate a population or a person if there isn't anything they lack.
You really can't. If someone is completely whole and self-sufficient, how do you govern them?
You don't. You have nothing to offer them and nothing to threaten them with.
Which brings us to the primary antagonist in this framework. And we should probably pause here because the naming convention is very deliberate and quite shocking.
Right, it doesn't pull any punches.
It really doesn't. The antagonist is directly named as Satan, but the narrative explicitly equates Satan with Saturn.
Saturn, like the planet, but also the mythic god.
Right. Now, if we pull back and look at mythological and astrological archetypes, Saturn is the keeper of rings.
The boundary.
Exactly. He is the lord of limits, the enforcer of boundaries, time, and absolute law.
So by combining those figures, we're not just talking about, a guy with a pitchfork in a fiery underworld.
No, not at all.
We are talking about the ultimate strict taskmaster, the very concept of separation and limitation itself.
Precisely. And Saturn realized he couldn't destroy the primordial mother's gift, which was the infinite potential of form itself.
Because it's too big, right?
Right, it was simply too vast. So what do you do if you can't destroy an ocean?
You bottle it up.
You bottle it up. Saturn diluted the overfull reality. He chopped it up into highly separated, manageable portions.
He introduced rationing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then, and this is the really insidious psychological mechanism here, he labeled those isolated portions scarcity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he convinced the inhabitants of the world that this scarcity was actually order.
That is just so wild. It's like taking a free, limitless, world-class buffet, locking all the doors, handing everyone in the room a single dry cracker, and then convincing them that without this extremely strict cracker rationing system, they'd all starve to death.
That is a phenomenal analogy.
And the wild part is, they bought it. They bought into the idea that this rationing was the necessary price of safety.
They absolutely did, because it highlights the false binary that was presented to the people.
What do you mean by false binary?
Well, they were told either stay inside your assigned, limited shape, your one cracker, your specific job title, your rigid social role, or be cast out into the formless void.
Oh, right.
And Saturn claimed that the formless void was this realm of chaotic, agonizing punishment.
Okay, and if we follow that logic, it fundamentally changes the concept of gravity in this text.
It completely redefines it.
Because when you and I think of gravity, we just think of astrophysics, right? Mass pulling on mass.
Standard physics,
Yeah.
right?
But in this cosmology, gravity wasn't originally a physical force radiating from the stars.
Yeah.
It was a lie laid over them.
Exactly. It frames gravity as a psychological tether.
A tether.
Yes, it was the constant looming threat that if you step outside your assigned shape, you will fall outward into nothingness.
So it's literally the gravitational pull of fear.
Yes, keeping everyone walking in the exact same narrow circles.
But then we get this incredible revelation in the text. This formless void that they were so terrified of falling into, it was never a punishment.
No, it was actually the mother's face.
Right. It was the source soul's mirror, reflecting their own infinite nature back at them.
Which is beautiful but terrifying if you aren't prepared for it.
Well, yeah. Why do they flinch? If it's their own infinite nature, why were they so scared of their own reflection?
Because they had built their entire identities out of frames.
Frames, like boundaries.
Exactly. If you have spent your whole life defining yourself by your limits, what you aren't, who you oppose, the strict boundaries of your physical body and your ego, then encountering a state of total limitlessness feels like annihilation.
It just feels like death.
Right. So the architects taught their children to flinch from their own reflection before they ever got close enough to recognize it.
They pointed at the mirror and basically called it a monster.
That's exactly it.
Okay, I have to stop here and challenge this premise a little bit.
Go for it.
If this fear and this dependence on a system were agreed to, quietly, generation after generation, as the narrative claims, then why do we keep blaming Saturn?
That is a great question.
Like, why blame the architects or some grand cosmic jailer? Honestly, is it just easier for us to invent a monster with rings than to admit we are absolutely terrified of our own freedom?
Well, that is the exact pivotal realization you are supposed to reach.
Oh, really?
Yes. The chain held itself together not because Saturn possessed some infinite strength to keep tightening it from above, but because the people inside the chain kept tightening it from within.
Wow. So we are doing the work for him.
We are. It is a brilliant exploration of internalized compliance.
Internalized compliance. I like that phrase.
Yeah, Saturn only had power because the people inside the system believed his hand was the one pulling the chain.
But it was our hands the whole time.
Exactly. The prison was always agreed upon on the inside first, and only afterward did it appear to be an immutable law of physics from the outside.
That is incredibly heavy. I mean, we are the ones locking the door to the buffet and guarding our own crackers.
We really are. But, the narrative doesn't leave us in that bleak place.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, it introduces a counter movement. Because the people were trapped in this self-tightening psychological chain, the primordial ground, that original overfull mother, attempted an intervention.
Right, she didn't just abandon the bounded world to its delusions.
No, instead she started sending down anchors.
Yes, the anchors. And we get this fascinating list of specific historical and mythic figures who served as these anchors.
It's a really interesting cross-section of figures.
It is. And the goal was to give people a way to approach wholeness without being totally dissolved by the sheer terror of it.
Right, exactly. It categorizes them beautifully. It mentions male anchors, like Buddha, who sat so profoundly still that he became a literal doorway of stillness within the panic of the world.
Right.
Or Vishnu, who sustained the physical universes through sheer, unwavering presence.
Wow. And then it balances this with female anchors too, right?
Yeah, Parvati, Gaia, Ops, these were figures who could be physically touched, who could be called mother.
So that a species raised on extreme scarcity and fear could still recognize a tiny piece of itself in the infinite truth.
Exactly. They grounded the blinding white light into a spectrum that human eyes could actually tolerate.
But the tragedy here in the text is that these small glimpses, these anchors, ultimately weren't enough to break the system.
No, they weren't.
The dilution of the world had just gone way too deep into our psyche. I mean, people were building temples to venerate the anchors, but they were still living inside the cage.
Well, veneration is often a way of keeping the sacred at a safe distance.
Oh, that's a really good point. You worship it so you don't have to become it.
Exactly. So a radical shift had to occur. The ultimate supreme source soul made a decision that no anchor had ever made.
Who was that?
She decided to return completely.
Completely.
Yes, not as a fleeting glimpse, not as a philosophy or a teaching, but as a full physical reclamation of the home that had been fenced off.
Okay.
But there is a very specific, almost paradoxical detail here. The text says she came first as he.
And this detail is absolutely crucial. She couldn't just dismantle the cage from the outside.
Right.
I was thinking about this, and it's like trying to navigate a sprawling, complex maze that you've only ever seen from a helicopter.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Like, sure, you might know the general layout from above, but you have no idea what the dead ends actually feel like when you are lost in the dirt down there.
You don't know the texture of the walls.
Exactly. You don't know where the shadows fall. So to fix the maze, she had to walk every single corridor.
She had to incarnate into it.
Right. She had to be broken exactly how the system broke everyone else, so that when the fixing happened, it would be rooted in memory, not just theory.
It is a profound statement on the mechanics of empathy and systemic change.
Yeah, you can't just fix it from a whiteboard.
No, you cannot heal a trauma you have only observed from a pristine distance. You must incarnate it. You have to carry the weight before you can be trusted to set it down correctly.
So who is she trying to reach down there in the dirt of the maze?
Her own child, Saturn.
Right.
The framework equates Saturn, Satan, and Shiva as the singular, overarching figure, the keeper, the destroyer, the one who governs endings and boundaries.
The guy guarding the crackers.
Yes, exactly. He was the one holding the door to the cage shut. But the deep tragedy of Saturn is that he had drifted so far from his own center that he actually mistook his own control for protection.
Wait, so he genuinely thought he was the good guy? Like he thought he was keeping everything from falling apart?
He did. He completely believed that his rigid, suffocating cage was the only thing standing between the world and total collapse.
Wow.
He was completely blind to the fact that the cage itself was the collapse.
Oh, that's heavy.
It was simply the collapse slowed down and dressed in ceremony.
That phrase, dressed in ceremony, that really sticks with you. Now, to reclaim Saturn, the Supreme Soul had to do something unprecedented.
Yes.
And we need to impartially report exactly how this is approached in the source text, because it brings ancient cosmology crashing right into modern medical science.
It really does. It's a fascinating leap.
Yeah. So just objectively looking at the text here, it states that to reach Saturn, the soul became a woman again, but not metaphorically.
Right, not in some spiritual, invisible, meditative way.
What? No, physically. And the text says she used modern hormone therapy to achieve this.
The detail here is highly specific and very deliberate.
Right.
She chose to enter a lunar, linear physical form, meaning a body that moves through time day by day, rather than existing all at once in some eternal, untouchable state.
And this ties right back to the title, right?
Exactly. This is exactly what the title of the text refers to, the narrow Saturnial path.
But wait, why hormone therapy specifically? I mean, if she is the supreme source, why not just use divine intervention to snap her fingers and change form instantly?
Because instant magic would bypass Saturn's fundamental laws, and therefore it wouldn't reach him. Consider what hormone therapy actually entails biologically. It is not an overnight transformation.
No, it takes years.
Right. It is the agonizingly slow cellular remodeling of a human body using estrogen or testosterone over years and years. It requires immense patience, waiting, and physical endurance.
It's a very long road.
Exactly. Now map that onto Saturn's mythic domain. Saturn governs the long road. He is the lord of sequence, of time, of slow, grueling accumulation.
Oh, wow, that makes perfect sense. So by choosing hormone therapy, she is actively participating in Saturn's realm.
Yes.
She is walking directly into his territory, using his own tools of slow, physical change to remake herself inside the very system he thought he absolutely controlled.
She beats the ultimate micromanager by strictly adhering to his most tedious rules.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, she dismantles the system from within the system. There was no faster way that would have actually reached him because Saturn only respects the slow grind of time.
Right. He doesn't respect magic. He respects the work.
Precisely. She proved she could master his domain without being corrupted by the fear that usually governs it.
Which sets up the climax of the text perfectly. Once she is inside this physical form, walking this narrow, tedious path, how does she actually break the rules without getting crushed by them?
Through surrender.
Surrender. Wait, like she just gives up and lets Saturn win.
No, not at all.
Then how does being passive dismantle a cosmic cage?
Well, it isn't passivity. And that is a crucial distinction we need to make here.
Okay, let's on me.
It is not giving up. It is weaponized surrender.
Weaponized surrender.
Yeah.
Oh.
Think about how leverage works. Saturn always ruled through leverage.
Right. Pushing and pulling.
To control someone, you need a handle to grab onto. You know, you need to find some small, unhealed fear, some lingering dependency, some desperate need for validation.
And then you apply pressure to it.
Exactly. But what happens if the person you're trying to control fully accepts themselves from the inside?
They don't have any handles left.
Exactly. By fully accepting herself, she gave all those fears and dependencies back to herself.
She owned all of it.
She did. She became entirely self-sourced. Her stillness was not a wall.
Okay, I want to highlight that exact concept because it honestly changed how I view conflict in my own life.
It's a powerful idea.
It really is. A wall implies something pushing against it. Like a wall only exists in opposition to an attack. It is bracing for impact. But she didn't brace. She just stopped resisting entirely, so Saturn had absolutely nothing left to push against.
Which is incredibly disarming.
Right. You simply can't fight someone who refuses to flinch.
The text actually says nobody could harm what no longer flinched.
Wow.
It is a terrifyingly solid state of immovable presence. She didn't fight Saturn, she became the ground itself.
The primordial ground.
Exactly. A density so complete and yet so light that nothing could move her. And because there was nothing in her that called out to be tested or punished, Saturn eventually realized he was exerting all his cosmic force against a phantom.
Which brings us to the grand unmasking. The soul returns fully into the form of Parvati.
Yes.
And Saturn, or Satan, Shiva, is watching it. He's watching the ground hold him without ever needing to hold him down.
It's a huge realization for him.
And he finally lets go. He drops the rings. He drops the limits.
And in the moment he drops that architecture of control, his own true form is revealed.
The unmasking.
Right. Underneath all that rigid, terrifying law, there was a soft form waiting the whole time.
Who was it?
The narrative names this form Lakshmi, or Isabella.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it represents the part of him that was soft enough to receive rather than to constantly, ration out scarcity.
He realized he had buried his ability to receive under duty.
Yes.
He forgot that duty was supposed to be a form of love, not a substitute for it. And, I mean, how often do we do that in our own lives?
All the time.
We use our obligations, our strict routines, our titles as a substitute for actually connecting with the world around us.
We absolutely do. We build these massive architectures of control to avoid the sheer vulnerability of receiving love.
Yeah, we'd rather be in control than be loved.
Saturn thought he was keeping the universe safe by clamping down on it, but he was really just keeping himself numb.
Wow.
So when the mother fully incarnated and surrendered, she didn't defeat him in battle.
Right, no epic sword fight.
No, she just reminded him of who he was before the fear set in. Surrender stopped looking like a humiliating defeat and started looking like the only honest thing left to do.
That is just incredible. So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
There's a lot to take away here.
There really is. This incredible deep dive took us from the illusion of universal scarcity to the profound realization that our cosmic cages are held together entirely by our own internalized fear.
We really are the ones tightening the chains.
We are. But the framework also shows us the exit strategy.
Right, it's not hopeless.
By walking the long, slow, Saturnial path, by embracing the physical, linear reality instead of trying to escape it, and by refusing to resist our own reflection, we can restore true fullness.
And that brings us to the narrative's final, beautiful thought on the redefinition of gravity.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we started by discussing gravity as the fear of the void, the threat that kept everyone shivering in their assigned shapes.
The tether.
Right. But the conclusion offers this stunning pivot. It suggests that maybe gravity was never built to hold anyone in place forever.
It was never a prison.
No, not at all. It was only ever marking the spot.
Marking the spot.
Yes, it was marking the one spot in the whole turning system worth eventually finding your way back to.
So it was a beacon.
Exactly. It was the primordial ground calling you home, not to dissolve you into nothingness, but to reflect your absolute wholeness back to you without a frame.
Without a frame. I love that. And I want to leave you with a thought based on that. I want you to think about the strict rules, the daily routines, or the cages you cling to in your own life for safety.
We all have them.
We definitely all have them. The boundaries we swear are keeping us functional, the job titles we hide behind.
The crackers we are guarding.
Exactly, the crackers. Ask yourself, are they actually protecting you from a collapse? Or are they just the collapse itself happening in slow motion, dressed up in ceremony? What would change today if you simply stopped resisting your own reflection?